For years, I visited the same club almost every weekend. It wasn't just a place to grab drinks or listen to music. It was like a second home. Familiar faces, good times, and a comforting routine made it special. Every week, my small group of close friends, Chris, Liz, Hines, Kim, and my wife, Christy, would gather at our usual table to enjoy the night. That evening felt no different at first. The music was energetic, laughter filled the air, and conversations flowed like always. But something was off. A pair of strangers sitting at a corner table caught my attention. One of them sat quietly sipping his drink, while the other moved around, talking awkwardly to different women. He was holding an envelope filled with photos or documents, showing them to people like he was trying to sell something. It was strange, and I couldn't figure out why the club staff hadn't stepped in. When I mentioned it to my group, we all started joking about what the guy might be up to. We didn't take it too seriously at first. About 30 minutes later, the bolder man came over to our table. What he said shocked me. He was looking for a woman to spend time with his friend. The way he talked, he didn't even care that all the women at our table were with their partners. The women laughed at his ridiculous request, but I felt uneasy. Then, to my surprise, Christy stood up and agreed to leave with him. I was frozen in shock as Christy walked away with the man, leaving me standing there, completely blindsided. I tried to follow her, but before I could even take a step, a massive bouncer blocked my way. I protested, telling him she was my wife, but he wouldn't budge. He said Christy told him she was leaving willingly and didn't want me to interfere. I begged her to stop, to turn around, to say something, but she didn't even look back. The humiliation I felt was overwhelming. My friends were just as stunned as I was, unsure of what to say or do. I collapsed on the floor, tears streaming down my face. How could she do this to me? Was I not enough for her? My heart shattered, but deep inside, something shifted. I wasn't just hurt. I was angry. I knew sitting there in that club wasn't going to change anything. I stood up, left some money on the table for our drinks, and walked out without looking back. As I stepped outside, the cold air hit me, and so did the reality of what had just happened. My life had changed forever, but I wasn't going to let this be the end of my story. Subscribe to hear what happens next and how I decided to take control of my life. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. The drive home was a blur of emotions, anger, heartbreak, and disbelief. My mind raced with questions. Why would Christy do this? What did I do wrong? Halfway home, my phone rang. It was her. For a brief moment, hope flickered inside me. Maybe she'd realized her mistake and wanted to come back. But her words shattered me all over again. She told me, "It's not about us. It's just something I needed to do." She said it wouldn't hurt our marriage, that it was just a one-time thing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The woman I loved, the woman I vowed to spend my life with, was asking me to understand and accept this betrayal. I wanted to scream, to cry, to beg her to stop, but I didn't. Instead, I told her, "I understand," though the meaning behind my words was far from what she thought. When I got home, I packed my things. Every suitcase I filled was a reminder of the life I was leaving behind. Christy and I had built a life together, but now it felt meaningless. As I packed, the door opened, and she walked in. She looked at me, confused, and asked, "What are you doing?" Without hesitation, I told her, "I'm leaving. I'm filing for divorce." Her calm demeanor cracked, and she begged me to stay. She tried to justify her actions, saying it was just curiosity, that it didn't mean anything. But to me, it meant everything. She had broken her vows, humiliated me in front of our friends, and now expected me to forgive her like nothing happened. I told her I couldn't stay, not after what she had done. No amount of apologies could fix what she had broken. Christy stood there, pleading with me to stay, but I'd made up my mind. Her excuses only fueled my anger. She avoided my questions about where they had taken her, insisting it didn't matter, and asking me to let it go. But how could I? She had left with them willingly, humiliating me in front of everyone we knew. Despite her begging, I packed the last of my things and walked out. The pain was unbearable, but staying would have been worse. My friends, Chris and Hines, helped me get to my car. They didn't know what to say, but their presence was enough. As I drove away, I felt the weight of what had happened crashing down on me. When I got home, I tried to make sense of it all. How could the woman I loved do this to me? I kept replaying the night in my head, hoping for answers that never came. Then, my phone rang again. It was Christy. Her voice sounded calm, almost detached as she told me, "It's just this one time. I'll prove my love to you when it's over." Her words cut deeper than any betrayal. She truly believed she could walk away, do whatever she wanted, and come back as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. That was the moment I realized I couldn't forgive her. My love for her had turned into something else entirely, something I couldn't yet define, but it was stronger than the pain she had caused. I hung up the phone and sat in silence. For the first time, I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't even angry. I was determined. If Christy thought she could destroy me and walk away unscathed, she was wrong. By the time I reached the apartment, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to disappear quietly. I unpacked my suitcases and began methodically packing up everything that was mine. Each item reminded me of the life Christy and I had built together, a life she had thrown away. I didn't rush. I wanted her to see the consequence of her actions, to feel the weight of what she had done. I was halfway through packing when the door opened. Christy walked in, looking disheveled, her makeup smeared, and her clothes wrinkled. She called out to me as if everything was normal. When she saw me packing, her expression changed. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I'm moving out and filing for divorce," I replied coldly. Her face fell, and she rushed toward me, trying to stop me. She grabbed at the suitcase, but I pulled it away. "Don't touch me," I said firmly, the anger boiling just beneath the surface. She started crying, begging me to stay, saying she'd made a mistake and it wouldn't happen again. But I couldn't believe her. Not after what she had done. I asked her point blank, "Did you sleep with both of them or just the one?" Her silence was answer enough. She tried to justify it, calling it a moment of curiosity, a mistake she had to make. She even had the audacity to claim it didn't mean anything. I couldn't take it anymore. I told her exactly how her actions had made me feel, small, humiliated, and utterly broken. The promises we made to each other on our wedding day meant nothing to her now. Her tears and apologies fell on deaf ears. I had already made my decision, and there was no going back. With every word I spoke, her sobs grew louder, but I didn't stop. I told her I might forgive her one day, but I would never forget. As I loaded my things into the car, I felt a strange sense of relief. I wasn't running away. I was taking my first step toward reclaiming my life. The next morning, I woke up in a hotel room, completely drained. I hadn't realized how exhausted I was until the adrenaline finally wore off. By the time I checked the clock, it was almost noon. I knew I couldn't stay at the hotel for long. My bank account wasn't built for this kind of expense, but I also couldn't go back to the apartment. It wasn't home anymore. I started thinking about my options. Christy and I still had a few months left on the lease, but there was no way I was staying there with her. We didn't own much, just 2 cars with payments, a small joint account, and some furniture I didn't care about. None of it mattered to me anymore. What mattered was finding a way to move forward. That's when I decided to reach out to my friends. Chris and Liz had been married for years, and they were the kind of people who would always have my back. I called Chris and asked if I could stay in their guest room for a while. Liz answered the phone and immediately agreed, but she laid down one condition. You can stay here, but I won't stop Christy from reaching out to you. She's been calling everyone, trying to find you. I agreed to her terms. Staying with them was my best option, and I needed the space to figure out what came next. Moving into their house that evening felt strange, but comforting. They didn't push me to talk about what happened, and for the first time since that awful night, I felt like I could breathe. Even though I was physically removed from Christy, her betrayal was still fresh in my mind. Every time I thought about her walking away with those men, it was like a knife to my heart. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let her actions define me. I tried to settle into my new routine at Chris and Liz's house, but no matter how hard I tried, Christy's betrayal haunted me. She hadn't stopped calling, leaving voicemail after voicemail, each one filled with apologies and pleas for me to come back. I ignored every single one. I wasn't ready to hear her excuses. One evening, after a long day at work, I came home to find Christy sitting in the living room with Liz. My heart sank. I had specifically told her I didn't want to see her. But here she was, looking desperate and full of regret. Liz gave me an apologetic look before stepping out to give us privacy. Christy started talking before I could say anything. She begged me to reconsider, promising she would do whatever it took to fix things. I made a mistake, she said, her voice breaking. But it didn't mean anything. You're the only one I love. Her words felt hollow. I told her bluntly, you humiliated me. You broke every promise you made when we got married. How am I supposed to trust you again? She cried, insisting it was a moment of weakness and that it would never happen again. But I wasn't buying it. Her actions had spoken louder than any words ever could. I told her I needed space to figure things out, but she kept pushing, trying to convince me that we could work through this. Finally, I stood up and walked away. You don't get to make decisions for me anymore, I said, firmly. If you really care about me, you'll give me the time I need. As she left the house that night, I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. I still loved her, but the damage she had done felt irreversible. No matter how many tears she shed or apologies she offered, I couldn't see a way forward. Days turned into weeks, but the weight of Christy's betrayal never left me. I tried to focus on work and rebuilding my life, but every quiet moment brought me back to that night. Then, one evening at the club, I saw them. The same 2 men who had taken Christy away. They were sitting at a corner table, casually scanning the room, likely looking for their next target. I couldn't believe it. They were back, acting as if nothing had happened, as if the pain they had caused me, and probably countless others, meant nothing. My anger boiled over. I must have been staring because Tasha, the bartender, noticed and asked me what was wrong. When I told her who they were, she wasn't surprised. Those guys are regulars, she said. They're always here, looking for women, especially married ones. Hearing that hit me like a punch to the gut. This wasn't a one-time thing for them. It was a pattern. They preyed on women, ruining marriages and lives without a second thought. The more Tasha talked, the angrier I became. I couldn't let them get away with it. Not again. I gathered my closest friends, Chris, Hines, and a few others, and we came up with a plan. We weren't going to let these men continue their games. The next time they tried to pull their stunt, we'd confront them and make sure they understood the consequences of their actions. That night, as we watched them, my resolve grew stronger. This wasn't just about Christy anymore. It was about making sure no one else suffered the way I had. It was about standing up to the kind of people who thought they could destroy lives and walk away unscathed. The opportunity to confront them came sooner than I expected. That same night, the two men approached a table with a group of women, laughing and chatting as they tried to work their usual tricks. My friends and I watched closely, waiting for the right moment. When the men finally left the table and started heading toward the exit, we made our move. Chris, Hines, and a few others blocked their path while I stepped forward. The shock on their faces was satisfying. They recognized me instantly, and their smug expressions quickly turned to fear. "You think you can ruin lives and just keep going like nothing happened?" I said, my voice steady but filled with anger. "Not this time." They tried to deny everything, claiming they weren't doing anything wrong, but their excuses didn't matter to me. My friends grabbed them and dragged them outside to the parking lot away from the crowd. They struggled, but they were no match for us. Once we had them cornered, I laid it all out. "You're predators. You target married women, destroy marriages, and walk away like it's no big deal. Tonight, that ends." Their arrogance evaporated as the reality of the situation set in. We didn't lay a hand on them, yet, but the fear in their eyes was enough to let me know they understood the seriousness of the moment. I told them in no uncertain terms that if they ever tried this again, the consequences would be severe. My friends backed me up, their presence alone enough to drive the message home. As we let them go, I felt a sense of power and control I hadn't felt in weeks. For the first time since Christy's betrayal, I felt like I was taking my life back. Watching those men slink away, I knew they wouldn't forget this night, or the lesson we had taught them.